Oh boy, did we get ourselves some more drama in the crypto space today. There are two massive announcements that have come out from Ripple, which you have to know about because this, well, it can mess up your day, it can mess up your year, really, or make you extremely happy for holding XRP. And fun fact, this is besides all the beautiful announcements of yesterday, and this is besides the price making some sort of spike. I mean, just yesterday, I was telling every single person on the earth in my video that I'm buying Bitcoin here, and we actually decided to buy some XRP too. You can see I slightly increased the position. The idea was that I actually add about $60,000 worth, but this initial trade unfortunately did not go through. It just slightly, the price went over it, so that's a bit unfortunate. And for Bitcoin, a quite unfortunate situation happened here as well, where I was trying to add about $150,000 worth or so when I saw a pretty good spike. Potential, so to call it, but it was at 105.8, and the price actually by that point was already up slightly too much. So this is basically, I was making the video, I wanted to buy a good Bitcoin new position, but only afterwards did I realize that I did not click the button, so I only decided to add about $25,000 worth. So a bit unfortunate, we were only able to add $50,000-$60,000 to our trades last night. But still, it actually helps the whole account look a bit better. But anyway, that's besides the point. Part of the reason why I'm trying to, trade a bit harder right now is because there's a massive competition going on right now as we speak over on Bluefin with upwards of $4 million in prices depending on how the market moves. I mean, right now it's only like $30,000 worth of a pool, but soon, right, if the market starts moving hard and the volumes go up, and it's still a few weeks left, it might actually turn out to be, $4 million that they give away. And so we want to get to at least one of the top 10 spots. Every single last time we were able to hit it. So that's why right now I'm saying to everybody, if you're a trader, if you've got an edge, if you're doing one of the things which I'm talking about right here, make sure you join our team because, well, we might win some juicy prizes. There's also a profit-based competition where we already actually are winning some money as we are 23rd in this competition. As you can see, we've got about $112 we are splitting, but it's not good enough, right? We need some more people in. We need some big hitters in. We need some more profit. But anyway, let's dive right into the news. And again, if you're interested in trading, you'll find all the links you need down below. Bluefin, for example, is the platform I use for these longs. Right now, I just literally yesterday bought Bitcoin and XRP. I explained in my video that I'm buying them. And if you did right now, you'd be seeing some profit because very often it is just that easy. And there's also some nice bonuses for just signing up. For example, here you can see if you deposit $2,000, you get $300 for absolutely free. Or if you're more interested in my bot trading, which is going extremely well, you can also find a link to all my bots that are automatically making me profit passively every single day. You can find it with the link down below. Now, before we move on, if you've not done it yet, make sure you press that like button. There's a lot to uncover today, but I just want to quickly say I appreciate every single one of you for stopping by, saying hi, and just giving it a little thumbs up. I want you to know I appreciate that a lot. As one of the big things keeping me here every single day is just the fact we are one big group, one big community. Just wanted to quickly say I appreciate that. Anyway, I'd say the most important news of today is if we take a look at my profile, and many others have posted about this too, I'd say that it is this right here. Ripple has just applied for a US banking license. Ripple seeks a US banking license, adding to list of crypto companies. A national banking charter would make the OCC a regulator of Ripple's stablecoin. And honestly, the main reason this to everybody is supposed to be and is a very big deal is because the more that we see expansion moves like this, the more we see announcements like this, it just means that Ripple as an entity, right, and the crypto space, the crypto companies can't be ignored any longer. For the longest time, the real players, right, the big banks tried to shrug it off. They say, go play in your little crypto kid corner. But with Ripple now, for example, making this move, applying for US banking license, and, well, as far as I see it, probably getting it not too long from now. It's just a matter of time, really, right? They're starting to play the higher game, the bigger game, the more money game. And so if you're wondering, where does that put coins like XRP? In my reality, where I think that puts coins like XRP is at a really, really beautiful spot. What I personally believe is that as it currently stands, XRP is never really hurt by Ripple. You might say selling it hurts, but I don't really think that's a major ordeal. Every single major crypto has that quote-unquote problem, but mostly is taken up with Ripple whenever they make massive moves, right? So whenever Ripple makes a very, very big move, like here adding themselves a nice banking license, potentially soon, or whatever Ripple is negotiating or discussing, since there's a very high likelihood they have the highest price of XRP, the best success for XRP in mind, most of those things push XRP upwards. Again, not always true, not true by definition, but with announcements like this, I see it that way. I see a way further future that Ripple is foreseeing also for the XRP ledger. I mean, we've seen some announcements yesterday about side chains for the XRP ledger, right? We talked about the EVM sidechain, which obviously was absolutely huge, but you know, I think the real big kicker was actually the ETF announcements. The fact that Bloomberg saw like a 95% approval chance for an XRP ETF. Matter of fact, there's actually more nice announcements in that similar field. Breaking, the SEC is reportedly eyeing a simplified listing process for crypto ETFs that could automate the approvals. Under this plan, issuers might skip the lengthy 19B4 process and go live in just 75 days. I should add to that there's actually a lot of announcements coming out from Ripple's side right now. They're doing pretty good in terms of press releases, and I specified a few months ago, right? Let me first read it, and then I'll specify the strategy that I explained a while back. Actually, it's been years probably now, but Ripple and OpenPaid have partnered to bring enterprise-grade stablecoin and payment infrastructure to life. With RLUSD minting baked into OpenPaid's real-time Euro and GBP rails, businesses can now move between fiat and stablecoins with ease. Two things I'll say. One is not every single thing Ripple does is good directly for XRP's price. Partially, I'm just letting people know that because even though I did just explain Ripple's success most likely benefits XRP every single time more than it destroys it, one counter is you should still see Ripple as an entity separately from XRP, because if they're doing, for example, a partnership here and there, you know, just because it's huge for Ripple doesn't mean it's huge for XRP. It could just be that Ripple is doing this selfishly because they're a for-profit company to make more money. Now, again, I will add that most of the successes do benefit XRP instead of taking it down. It's more just to show you that you should be excited for Ripple's success, growth, etc., because it will take your XRP up. It's not a direct one-to-one, meaning that Ripple's announcement here actually is because they want to make XRP grow. It could just purely be out of selfish interest, not meant to make XRP better, but actually in the process, maybe actually will make the price do good. But I will say two things again. One is that this is what I was trying to say about before, right, with the two things. One of those is a few months ago, or actually it's been probably over a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years now. Time flies. By the way, if you've not done it yet, make sure you go ahead and press the like button on this video. Last video, I said, can we get to some like 400, maybe 444 likes? And we, for the first time in a while, had 591 likes as it currently stands. Now, I should have, maybe I'll edit it in to be earlier in the video, but I should have said it early in the video. Maybe I'll say it twice. Really, this just shows me how many people really are here instead of just clicking it, but are actually active in this community. And honestly, I think the most important thing for us, right, you and me right here, is to have good lines of communication and also to see who's in like a sort of the group I'm almost calling. Because it's one thing to talk to a viewer, but it's a different thing, in my opinion, to talk to somebody that's in the community. Someone I really want to root for, somebody I really want to help, somebody I really want to talk and interact with. And so I'm not asking you to make sure you comment under everything, I like everything, you know, you try your best if it's effort. I'm just saying, hey, sometimes a like here and there just shows that these people really care, really are interested in what's being talked about today. And maybe a video, you see one and you really don't like it, please do let me know so I can hopefully make these better, more informative, and ultimately we can make even more money together. That would be amazing. But to get back to it, about a year or two ago, I basically laid out a strategy that I think Ripple is going for. And well, the second part of what I'm going to say is quite negative. So the first part I'll make quite good. And that is, I personally think Ripple has had many announcements many of the roadmap or much of the roadmap already figured out probably a few years ago, but was waiting on most of them, most of the announcements, most of the big deals for the lawsuit to settle and for the market to kick back in. I told you guys, as an altcoin, you do not want to get any big announcements going when the market is bearish. Right now, Bitcoin, for the most part, is still picking up its dominance. And I told you yesterday, or a few days ago basically, but mostly yesterday, that I think that this is the time where altcoins start shining. We described with all these different charts that this right now seems to be the point. Matter of fact, breakthrough. Exactly as I predicted yesterday. So things have moved nicely. I said this is where the bounce is going to come from. And again, I will not claim to be an all-knowing eye. It could have broken down, but this is obviously where we bought yesterday and where I said there's a good chance we bounce from here. And the moment we break through, if we get some confirmation throughout the day and specifically tomorrow, bull market can just continue on. Because, well, depending on how things go, right, we set ourselves a higher high here. But that's besides the point. I always say altcoins should not be making massive game-changing announcements when the trend is mostly downwards and Bitcoin's dominance is mostly trending upwards. They should be doing it when there's a paradigm shift. And that's because at that point, you can really use your move with a lot of leverage. Whereas if most people are not really speculating on altcoins anywhere, there's not as much free roaming money, you're letting your announcement go in the void and nobody really cares. You want to do it when the market's hot. So I already speculated previously that right now, Ripple is going to let go of a ton of massive announcements they did not get out over the past few years with the lawsuit, etc. And so the next few months can probably be quite significant. And that's as a response to people who say, yeah, but why would the price go? Why would it buy? Why? Well, think about it like this. If you've had years of a lawsuit to brew and cook and stir the pot in the background, really, right? With, of course, you for a while already now, at least a few years, knowing that this is all going to be over, all the negative pressure, etc., etc., etc. And you know from Ripple's side also that getting at a good push, even if we're just thinking of price manipulation, right? But getting XRP a good push is going to attract so many retail investors because of this legacy, because of the brand building for the past 10 years. If you know all this, which they do, don't you think also it's in their best interest to get a good campaign, a good structure going, to just let it go absolutely crazy? I mean, it was the #2 crypto for a long time. I really think Ripple is not going to let that go, try their best to get it closer to #1. I'm not saying they'll become #1. I'm not saying they'll beat Bitcoin. I'm saying they should at least, from my perspective, really try their best. Now, there is one counter though. I said earlier that you should always see Ripple and XRP as two distinct things. I will always stand by that. But for all the people that made sure they split their I guess investment strategy as well into partially Ripple stock and partially XRP, there's a bit of negative news. And I mostly want to cover it later in more detail, right? Because I want to make a separate video on this. But let me just say the long story short, and that is that Linqto, a company that a lot of people use to buy Ripple stock. I've talked about it a few times in the past. I've never promoted them, never worked with them, but I did talk to them a few times, right? I never knew they were in such a bad shape, but basically, as far as I've heard now, and take this with a grain of salt because I believe this is allegedly, right? I'm just reading what I've found over on Twitter. I'm not trying to defame them in a certain sense. I'm not trying to state something that is not true, right? From a legal perspective, I don't know what's going on. I'm just stating what I found over on Twitter, and apparently there are some lawsuits going on. Apparently things are not that amazing. It says right here, right? And again, I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot me if this is wrong. I do want to make sure every single person here is involved. Please see my perspective. If this is wrong, which it could be still, at least I've done my part in warning people in case it is true. So that's my thought process. To recap, Linqto's founder, Bill, was trying to unload shares of Ripple to Linqto's 11,000 users at a price 60% higher than paid. The SEC generally prohibits a 10% plus markup, but he did it anyway, not disclosing the height to customers and pocketed a few million. This looks to be securities fraud. The SEC and Department of Justice are also investigating whether the guy improperly sold an additional 16,000 shares of Ripple without actual permission of Ripple. Boiler room sales operation. In its rush to sign more users, they also pushed other boundaries like buying some email lists and doing some shady business. Apparently, they also tried to manipulate the price of a specific stock to make it a unicorn and make a ton of money that way. And also, apparently, because Ripple had a roughly $61 a share buyback program, they reached out to customers to say, hey, you know what? if you were black on their Ripple investment, you can actually sell all these 144,000 shares, right, back to Ripple at $55. So they pocketed, I guess, the $6 difference right there, booking more than $8 million in revenue on that. So that is also pretty interesting. And there's a bit more. But if you're wondering, Dusty, is this all from an unverified source? Are you just getting this from 𝗂𝗍, which, by the way, is a huge source in the XRP community, just absolutely a wonderful human being? No, it's actually 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃 himself as well, coming out to state. Let me quickly find the post. Where can we find it? Well, let me quickly see. Okay, wait, let's take a second here. So we have this post that I saw everywhere of 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃, right? This is the 2nd of July, 4 p.m.-ish. Let me just go back. Is it? So the message starts with, let's see, understandably, there have been many questions. It was easy to find. Let me see it again. So I go to his profile. No. Oh, here we go. Okay, so for some reason it was kind of lost. Understandably, there have been many questions from those who believe they were buying Ripple shares from Linqto and what happens next. To be clear, on Ripple's end, what we know is Linqto owns about 5 million shares bought from the secondary market, not from Ripple themselves. Apart from Linqto being a shareholder, Ripple's never really had any business relationship with them and stopped selling them stock in 2024. So, well, there's a lot of questions here. But in reality, 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃 doesn't really know what the frick Linqto did and who really owns Ripple stock through them, because what Linqto really did, and again, I will go over it in a separate video somewhere today explaining it slightly better, but you've basically got these things called SPVs. They are special purpose vehicles, and one of the purposes they're used for is if we've got a $1 billion opportunity to invest in, for example, Neuralink, Tesla, you name it, right, the company. But you, for example, don't have $1 billion, but you combined with 10 other people can get that $1 billion, right? This Neuralink might only want to let one person invest, but it doesn't really matter if that one person, right, that one company, so to speak, actually consists of 10 people, all with 10% ownership, for example. So again, they don't want to handle all the paperwork, all the dealership of having 1,000 different parties. They just want one. But how that one is structured, they don't care about. So you can, for example, all have $10 million, 100 people, to get to a $1 billion number, to be able to invest as an entity, a vehicle, into that allocation, without them having to do all the work for it. It's on this side. The lawyers are on the other side. Anyway, it doesn't really matter too much. From that angle, Linqto could also share whatever stock they've got to 1,000 different people through structuring deals of that sort. It could be slightly different too, but let's just say that's one of the parts. Now, again, there are rules for that, though, as to how much of a markup you can make on that. There's rules for that. How much you can, not let them know, these, secondary investors, let's call it. There are rules for that in the US, which are quite strict. And what Linqto tried to do is they bought the stock on the one end, right? And then try to sell it with a very, very high markup. And that's not allowed because, well, you're basically gatekeeping an opportunity by basically asking way more money for it than what it's quote unquote worth, what the market has decided it is worth, without the company themselves really acknowledging that. So you're basically reselling it in a really, really strange manner. Well, again, in the crypto market, basically it's all free reign, but in the stock market, in the securities market, there are strict guidelines and rules for what is fair. Anyway, and the reason I'm calling it bad is because maybe some of the people that were banking on Ripple and XRP, both to really succeed and put a lot of money into Ripple stock, right, might now not be in the best of situations if something happens to Linqto. Like right now it's being alleged that they might be getting some sort of bankruptcy or something of that sort going on. Really, I hope not, but Wall Street Journal Markets here is reporting that they might get to that situation. Again, I really feel sad for y'all. Can't do much though about it. I'm just the messenger. I'm just sharing the update. And yeah, that's about it for this little crypto update. On the positive note, I mean, the market's doing well, right? Bitcoin's breaking through. Things are looking really, really nice. And I'm happy to watch it, specifically because we bought yesterday. I wish it was more. You saw the orders. Really, I could just slap my head for not being able to get this buy in. Trust me, right? If I sit here and just think about it for a long, long, long time, the fact that it could have gone from 105.8 with about 150K extra, it would still be nice, even if it's only up like, what, 3% or something like that. It might only be $5,000, for example, right? It might only be $10,000, but hey, that's still, in my opinion, pretty nice for just one click that I actually took, right? It just, unfortunately, was slightly too late. And of course, I could have still opened it here at 106.5 instead of the 105.8, but at that point, my own personal humble opinion, it was a bit late from a risk-reward perspective to have the same size, so I dimmed it down. And again, similarly with XRP, I could have actually bought a good chunk still there at 218.63. But my plan was to actually buy my way down, but the price never really came back down anymore. So I decided to just accept it. Still some good profit throughout the night though, so I'm definitely not dissatisfied. You can see the ETH trade. I was also thinking, what if I just go a bit crazier on this? I didn't do it. We're still seeing 3.5K or about 50% worth of profit on this trade in just like a week or so though. So I'm still satisfied. I'm just saying, hey, you can have all these regrets, but all that matters is you just keep opening positions and you can actually profit in them whenever you want to. Right now, I could just take profit on all these if I want to, but I don't because I think the market is about to really, really spike hard. But on the opposite side, I still am also keeping myself sane by not going too crazy. But if you take a look at the XRP structure, things are so freaking bullish right now, man. I can't describe it enough. I'm super, super excited, which is why I said buy that freaking dip as we get towards the $2 mark or $2.14 and below. And just last night, we went below $2.14 again. If you did not buy anything, no worries, but really start logging these things, right? It's not a problem if you don't get into a trade. Don't panic and buy afterwards with all your severity. Just realize why didn't you buy, what went wrong. For example, my analysis previously where I talked about why buying at $2.14 almost always works out and why it's generally speaking quite a good idea. Why did you not believe my take? In the sense that, again, I'm not your financial advisor. Don't just believe me plainly. But what about my analysis do you think was wrong? And what trade should you have taken? And go from there. Maybe that will benefit you more in the long run. Maybe that way you can make your edge, make your money. Do as you please. I'm just letting you guys know what I'm doing, what I think is wise. And it seems to be working. So yeah, that's about it for this little crypto update though. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys again in another one.